Achieving a gorgeous grin from home isn't a total mystery with Bite Clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all of your sleuthing friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Bite Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
There are some things that are too good to keep a secret. Like how your Amex Platinum card helps you have the perfect trip. I'd like to check into the Centurion Lounge. Or how it seems like you always get those hard-to-snag tables.
Ooh, yum.
And how you get the most out of select can't-miss events. With access to the Centurion Lounge, Resi Priority Notified, and Amex card member benefits at select events, you'll have to share. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
Good morning, Tom. We're a good day in Rangerland. Rangers just swept the Capitals. We're here in 2024.
I picked them in 5, and I actually thought that the Capitals would win game at their home rink because they wouldn't want to get beat out in front of their own fans, but that was not the case.
Funny you should say that because my son Thomas did his hockey brackets, and he was saying, he's like, Dad, I'm a little torn right now because I want the Rangers to win, to sweep, but I have them at 5 also, like you did. So I'm like, that's okay. You want them to win. That's your team.
You know, it's not just the winning, too. Like, they're really playing, like, good playoff hockey. Like, you know, physical game, battling through stuff. Tom Smith is a jerk. I used to like him thinking, geez, I know he's on the other team, but I take him on my team. But that's his stupid things. Jeez.
Wait, how am I jerk? What that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Wilson. Sorry.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. No, I say that behind your back. I don't say that to you.
Fair enough. Yeah. But Tom Wilson is a jerk. And I'm curious if people watched Game 4, after Trocheck scored the second goal, he grabbed Adam Fox. Like,
even if Fox said something to him, like a tough guy doesn't go after Adam Fox. A tough guy goes after.
Well, he's gone after Panarin already.
Yeah, I know.
But I will say to some of and for some reason, Chris Kreider sometimes gets hate from Ranger fans, which is ridiculous.
I know.
But Kreider, who doesn't fight, grabbed Wilson. Kreider is strong.
Yeah,
he just held Wilson at bay.
Yeah,
and nothing happened after that.
Yeah.
So he's not going to find.
It is funny with Kreider, right? It's one of those things I think when everybody gets to watch a player play so much and they expect always to doing the great things, and he does. Not every player always does great things, and I think that's probably around the league. If anybody else talks about Kreider, they go, "Wow, he's fantastic."
Yeah, so I had this debate with friends of mine today in a text with Dennis Jelsic, who works for the Rangers, and Gigi, who was the big Ranger guy, and he hates Kreider. Well, doesn't hate him, but he's not a big fan. But he was like that, that Kreider can make the mistake on the one goal. And I said, well, what about Panarin? And he goes, well, he scored 120 points. He gets a pass. I was like, well, no, not necessarily. You just don't like the guy.
It's true.
But listen, in Ranger history, there's only 2 guys who scored more goals than Kreider. 2. That's it. And
Roger
Bear and Jean Martel. That's it.
In all the time they played, not just playoffs. You're talking.
No, then in playoffs, nobody scored more goals than Kreider. He's the number 1 playoff scorer in Ranger history. That's amazing. And he's got 300 NHL goals. That's a lot of goals, man.
Because you figure if you're in the playoffs, they haven't always, like last year, they didn't have a very long run either. So
I think he scored 5 or 6 last year, though. He had a good first round. And if you think about it, that's a lot of goals. 300 goals is 275 more than you scored. So that's a lot.
That's good math by you there.
300 more than I scored, to be fair. So
that's funny. You know what? And if you met Chris Kreider too, he's a funny guy. He's intelligent. I know, but I'm pretty sure he set me up because he told me when I first met him, we were doing an event Fort Pitt down in the city there. It's where they had a firehouse and a police station. He started telling me how he taught himself Russian, and that he would act as a translator for the Russian players, and he would tell the coaches something different than what the Russian players. I thought this was a fantastic story. So for like 3 or 4 years, I'm going around everybody telling the story that it's Russian.
No, I think he does. I think he has a working knowledge.
Okay, hold on. Then we're at a golf tournament, and I think it was last year, and a bunch of people were out. I said, "Oh yeah, Chris speaks Russian." Goes over to me, goes, "I don't speak Russian."
Maybe he's just messing with you. Well,
but either way, he's messing with me one way.
That's great.
And we don't know each other that well, so I think those things, when somebody messes with me like that, I think it's hilarious.
That's cool.
Did I tell you that?
Yes, you did. You told our audience too. And that's fun. That's great because that's what you do, because you're a ball buster too.
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
So when somebody does it to me, like Adam Graves now, he always gives it to me now. And we've become pretty decent friends.
He said you guys are good buddies, but he's like, he just doesn't do podcasts. So it's because I asked him to come on a few times, and he's like, no, Tom's my friend, but I'm just not doing podcasts.
I really admire him because he's so, dudes are careful or aware of his people.
Aware.
People have.
Very good self-awareness.
Yeah. So he's aware that a lot of people have gotten themselves in trouble on podcasts before. So
there's a story bouncing around, and I don't know, maybe you can ask Gravy next time you see him, but it was he was having a brawl. Keenan was being Keenan during 94. He was fighting someone.
Right.
And apparently he turned to Keenan and said, Mike, you're fucking next.
Oh,
Keenan was giving, it was like, wow, I don't know.
To do that.
And he said Keenan shut down after that. But Keenan was being Keenan, and apparently got exposed.
We're our next guest coming up. We'll talk about this too. He seems like he's a pretty
Kevin Klein. Kevin Klein's a guest.
Yeah, he's going to do what he wants to do, kind of guy. And it's amazing that more players in the past, maybe they did, like threaten some of those coaches like Hitchcock and Babcock, Keenan, and all those guys. I watched a few times Mike Commodore talking about Mike Babcock. You seen some of his videos?
Yes.
Oh, he's hilarious. Oh, he carves into Babcock just up.
Did you see the videos of the guy imitating Babcock at the games? And he's I'll send you those. They're great. He's like doing a Babcock. He sits like first row. And he's like has like the whiteboard. And he's like bad hockey here. And he's just doing like a whole Babcock character. It's pretty great.
Do you remember about Paul McLean when he coached the Ottawa Senators? Where he had the big mustache and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, there used to be a guy sitting behind the bench that had the same mustache.
Same mustache. I remember that too. Oh. And then in Dallas, they had the girl sitting behind. I think it was Rick Bowness, but I think she was an entertainer.
Yes.
And she was just with her assets right behind the coach, just trying to distract him.
People say, like, do you listen to the crowd or do you see the crowd or whatever? Like 99% of the time you don't. Like you hear a buzzing noise. But there's sometimes you just can't.
Somebody points something out on the bench. You guys do that. I mean, you're human beings,
Yeah, like you try to be careful with it. Oh, I know. I told the story, but that woman walked out and started banging my glass, yelling at me. I told you that story.
I don't think so. Let's hear it. If you did, we'll take it out. But I don't think you did. Let's hear it.
So Herb Brooks is coaching. We're playing terrible. It's at the Garden, and he's the TV timeout. He's screaming at us, and I'm on the ice, so I'm turning and looking at him. But I'm also, you can see the fans behind you, and this beautiful woman, nice dress, nylons, fur coat, and everything, starts walking down, and she's staring at me. So I'm probably like 24, 25-year-old guy, and I'm thinking, well, of course she wants me, right? That's Tom Laidlaw. And so she's walking down, and I'm thinking like she's going to give me her phone number. Like the glass comes together, but these little slipper. And the guys are seeing what's going on, but we're trying to pay attention to her because he's losing his mind. And so she comes down the glass. I'm thinking, no, don't give me your phone number here. This curve's going to go crazy. She gets down, she leans down and starts banging on the glass. She goes, Laidlaw, you suck. You're terrible. And the guys we're all trying. There's a funny sequence. We're trying to pay attention to her. Yeah. But the guys are saying they're like at first they're thinking, "Wow, good job, Tom."
Was Brooks like? See, even she knows.
Yeah, I think he was losing his mind so much. Thank God he just didn't realize what was going on. So, God, I'll never forget that. It was a funny story. And the guys are dying too.
That's great. And it's obviously the most wonderful time of the year. It's NHL playoffs. You're gonna you watched some of the Range game last night?
A little bit, yeah. I try to keep in touch with what's going on.
Okay.
You know what it is? I have total admiration for the players now. They're fantastic athletes. The game is just so much different. And I think you touched on it before too. Like so I don't even go to concert stuff. Like I'm so used to doing it, like being front and center, that to watch somebody else do it.
You're not a passive enjoyer of things, but it's cool to see. It's cool to be part of. You are a Ranger, you work for the team, and it could be a good run like the one they had in 2014 with our next guest, Kevin Klein, who's I think people are gonna really like this interview because he's really showing the human side.
Yeah,
and I think our fans, we have one young fan who you met who he said he met lots of NHL players before. His name is Connor Lane. He's a little hockey player. Yeah. He said he listens to this podcast every night before he goes to bed.
Oh, nice.
His dad confirms that, like he does. I said to Andy, his dad, I said, if there's an E next to the episode, tell him not to listen to it because that's explicit content. But
Connor, it was funny. We were with Tom's group, and the dad was thinking his son was going to be all excited meeting me, NHL player and the whole bit. And the kid looks, he says, "This is Tom Laidlaw. I played in the NHL." And Connor looked at his dad. Dad, what do you say, Dad?
I know lots of NHL. I met lots of NHL players. As far as like, no, he didn't.
You know what's funny too? I've been very fortunate to work with that ASHA, American Special Hockey Association. Yes. Jeff Bryan runs that. So they're autistic young men and women, and they are so honest. Like if they want to talk to you, they'll talk to you. If they want nothing to do with it, they just turn and walk away. We had a play lad a couple weeks ago, and Joe Ruggiero, recovering from a heart attack. This is all our stuff. He introduced me to a young guy. The guy just turned around and walked away. He wanted nothing to do with me. And I from being around him, so you've been around too, that you just realize no hard feelings. It's just
and that's perfect. That fits in your time frame too, because you have about 3 minutes of talking to people before you move on to something else. Because you
didn't even you didn't give me 3 seconds though.
Good, see, so game recognizes game once again.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe he had that sense of what I was all about. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have a great show today. We got Kevin Klein on. I'm excited to hear what he says, and I think people will be too. If you like Full Change Podcast, tell all your friends about it. Listening, sharing reviews, and sharing the show on helps us. We'd love to keep doing this. So, we're going to keep bringing great stories from wonderful human beings like yourself.
Yeah, looking forward to this story. This will be good.
This will be good. Kevin Klein. Tom, I'm excited about this one today. We have a Ranger who had a career kind of similar to yours, except he actually made the finals, unlike yourself. When the Rangers made a trade in 2014 with the Nashville Predators, they picked up a guy who had a great run with them for a few years and went right to the Cup with them. Today we have on Kevin Klein.
Great, Kevin. Great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us. It's funny, our girl Jackie DiPiazza, who sets up all the alumni stuff, and I talked to her one day after you were in. She goes, "Man, he's interesting. He's just a whole different dude altogether. Like he's very cool." So good job. And that's tough to do in the National Hockey League. Act different, act like your own person in the National Hockey League. We're all a bunch of muttheads.
Yeah, it's I am a different dude, but I'm a little unique. But it's I had a thing that happened kind of halfway through my career that just led me to like reassessing who I was and how I was acting and everything else. So I had a lot of support from my wife at the time and a couple people in the community that helped me, just understand myself. So.
Well, let's go right at it then. We can jump around a little bit here. Tell us what happened to you.
I just was acting like a shithead, like a lot of professional athletes in general. We move away. We don't have mentors. The mentors on our team are in junior starts, and you're on your own. As I was a 15, not even 16-year-old going to Toronto, and you're looking up to 20-year-olds on the team, and that's not quite the best role models to have. So, my first half of career, I was just kind of, acting like a shithead and got caught doing some bad stuff. And then I just reassessed my life and got help at that moment with the support of my now ex-wife, Jody. We just kind of tackled everything and I held myself accountable for how I was acting and made huge changes in my life.
Now, did the Players Association and the NHL have that Players Assistant Program in place?
We did, but I don't really want to speak on that. I reached out. I was going through when everything came crashing down, and it was actually my second year in New York. I was still had to go to the rink. I still was battling through everything. It was kind of, guys could see I was, teammates were great. Coaching staff just kind of swept it under the rug, like shit happens. I reached out having anxiety for about a couple weeks. My life was kind of about to crumble, and I reached out, and they essentially provided me a hotline thing that I called into, and they prescribed me like medication. Was the extent of it, which I was like, oh, this isn't good. So I don't take medication. I don't take pink. I never took any sleeping aids, any of that stuff. So I was like, I don't really want to go on meds. So, I ended up reaching out to a friend of Jody's, my ex. He was a spiritual kind of guide who helped through stuff, and he flew in from Nashville. I've known him for years, and I did like a weekend kind of retreat with him and just analyzed a bunch of where my life was, what was bothering me, that kind of stuff. And from that point forward, I just committed to that. Luckily, I was disciplined and strong enough to weather all the storms. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it kind of gave me a foundation for moving forward.
No, you said yourself you're kind of unique. You mentioned the word hippie a little bit. Were you like that before? And I mean that. I want to be clear when I say that too, because I think that is a real compliment to you. Because going through the National Hockey League for 11 years myself, it's just like everybody does the same thing, right? We all the same way, and so to be unique, to be your own man, that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, it was always like when you come to the league, it's hard to be your own man. I was always a little different, but I kind of put everything on the back burner because you have older guys, that are, they're themselves. Like you don't blame them for that. They don't necessarily have had the tools or the resources, or, sometimes some people just like to bob along and okay, this is what it is, and just accept, the some of the shitty things that happen. And, as a young guy, it's tough to push up against that. Right.
Yeah,
so, as soon as I started becoming, one of the more veteran guys on Nashville, I just started to be myself, not take, the big thing for me was not taking hockey home. Like, I didn't really have a very good relationship with hockey. Unless I'm an alumni, I'd come into an alumni game and I'm in the arena and it comes back to me and there's some positive, but I had a really bitter relationship with it. My kids both my boys don't play it. I never had it in my house. I don't have any any of my stuff. It was all in my parents' basement from over the years, all the stuff, old jerseys and sticks. And I started to just find outlets for myself, my creative self, what I was passionate about, and what made me Kevin. And I just started like really focusing on that outside of hockey.
So why the bitter relationship with hockey? Did something happen, or is it just?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It just bothered. Like, I'm kind of a sensitive person. I was never allowed to be, right? I always knew that, but I was always just stuffing all those feelings down and just being that, that warrior that looked, act tough when he didn't want to, he had to, he couldn't show, that crack in the armor. And then once I started embracing like the sensitive side of me and just knowing that, this is my job and, you got to do certain things. Like, it never really bothered me to, be that, but I also wanted to be like a sensitive warrior, showing my teammates that you can be vulnerable and, compassionate and understanding, and still go out and, hit and fight if you need to. So, it was just we could go into what made me feel that way. It's pretty much just living that ego, money-driven idolization, it can all rub me the wrong way because we're emphasizing all these things and really putting all, how do I even describe it? Just putting everything into, like, you don't really know what we are or what we're dealing with and what we're doing, and we're supposed to be idolized, and I know we have skill set and drive and we're entertainers, but really it's like, we're a bunch of damaged humans with it that are now. And that's why I love when you came to me about this, the mental, health side of it is like, we're putting these guys up on pedestals, and I was too. And it's great to be an idol and drive, but then you have also, that acceptance of the other side of it, and a lot of these podcasts are doing the same thing. You're telling the same stories, and you got kids and my friends all listen to it and everything else. And it's like, you really put, like, where's the growth? Like, we're making us sound like a bunch of idiots, really. And we're not. And there's lots of good guys I played with, lots of good humans that are doing, great work, mental health or charity or, and it's like, we put this emphasis on, the party side and the womanizing and whatever. Right.
And we've done close to 100 shows now. And after 15, 20 shows, we were sitting together and he goes, man, you guys are messed up. It's just, and you know what, Kevin, I don't think even I realized how messed up we were.
Yeah.
And you're touching on it, right? We grew up all our lives. Everybody tells us how great we are, or get away with things we shouldn't, and all this stuff. And we really believe that this is the real world, that we are these great people, right? And we get away from the game.
That's the whole thing to it. It's got to be a mind fuck, because you guys are not babied, but you're basically put on that pedestal, like you mentioned, Kevin. Your hopes from when you're 14 till your career's over. And then the gist of the show is that there's a change, like you change into regular humans. And then, that's very difficult for a lot of people we've had on the show, because, again, it was a mind fuck for your career. And now here you are in the real world, and you're real people with real problems and families and kids and divorces and mortgages. And it's, people don't see that side, and they really should.
Yeah. We had a fantastic life. We dream come true and all that kind of stuff. But you're right. It's
I don't take away from that aspect. I'm very fortunate, but the people also don't understand, like, I can go into it, dozens and dozens of situations where you're like, what wasn't good. It wasn't good. And we had no support. I mean, I had a really wonderful childhood too. Like, I have a great family, supportive family, But what can my family do when they're a single income family? You know, my dad worked, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm in Toronto, you know, as a 15-year-old, and they can only see me maybe once every weekend or once every second weekend or whatever, and I'm just left on my own. I mean, I had 6 billets in 4 years in St. Mike.
Wow.
I was moved around. One of the billets ended up becoming my wife.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, it was just like,
Yeah.
it was really tough.
People don't understand that, right? They don't understand what it's like to be like a 14, 15-year-old boy, 16-year-old boy. And you're supposed to go on the ice and you're acting tough and everything. You're getting in fights. Meantime, yeah, you got feelings. No, Kevin, I want to ask you a tough question. We the 100 shows we've done, I think, was it, Tom, like 7 guys either attempted suicide or contemplated suicide. Did you ever
7 and 10, yeah.
Did you ever think about hurting yourself?
No, I didn't. I can't say that I have, but I mean, I was in some low areas. I mean, if I didn't have support around me, who knows? Like, I had Jody at the time, who was very supportive. She said, "You can leave hockey right now if you want." She had no connection to hockey or the money aspect or anything. She's like, was for the betterment of myself. But I'm lucky that I can talk about all this stuff. Like, I was going into the rink in New York and breaking down, crying before friggin' playoff games. And I'm like, and these guys are seeing me like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, fuck, I'm fucked." And then I just take, a 10-minute pause in the trainer's room to like collect myself before I'm going on the ice, because I'm getting messages from my wife and I were battling. I've got all this shit going on. And it's just like, there was like no support other than the person that I'm having the battle with was my biggest support. So it was really, really weird, a really weird situation. And it could easily go that, but I had the ability to go in there and be vulnerable. Like, a lot of guys might have just, held that in, and then who knows? But I had the ability to like cry in front of my trainer Rammer, or step on and G, who are in Girardi, who are in the training room with me before the game, and like, "Man, you're right." Like, and I could talk it out. I'm kind of starting to get emotional now, but just like when you think about, I was lucky because at that point I already did the work that I could just release it. But if I didn't, who knows, right?
I don't think people realize how amazing that is, and I give you full credit for that, because I'm trying to picture myself. Or we had Mike Allison, a great friend of mine, we started our careers together, and he told us on the show that he had contemplated suicide, and I had no idea. Like, he said he'd go lay in the shower or get a bundle in the shower in the corner and just sit there and cry. And probably even worse back then. There was, like, if he'd come to me, as much as we was great friends, I wouldn't have known what to do. Like, if he'd come to me and told me his feelings, I would care, but I wouldn't know what to do at all.
It's really awkward for males for most males to be in that position and be vulnerable. And
But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It really
no,
shouldn't
that's
be.
what I'm doing work now. I mean, I started therapy over a year ago. I found the right guy, and we started a men's circle, men's group, where we get together with men from the community and talk about feelings and support. And like, when we first got in there, I was the only one that could talk. Like, that felt, being able to show emotion and talk about struggles. It took, 2 or 3 sessions for these guys that they'd never talked to another like person, let alone a male that they don't know.
Kevin, what do you think sometimes too, as a man? I guess it's men, but I think for me, I've got good friends, and Tom's a good friend of mine. I don't want to put you in this category, but sometimes I feel like, okay, if I go open up and tell him my problems, well, now he's just going to tell me his problems, and now he's going to judge me, right? That's the feeling.
What a narcissist! What a narcissist!
Yeah, you can call me anything you want. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. That's yours.
Yeah. Then that's where it's the holding space. I've always been a guy who actually listens twice as much as I talk.
Yeah.
So when I get in those environments, it's easy to interrupt or give them but when it really breaks, like when you really break it down, my experience is only mine and no one will ever know it. Yours is yours. So it's like, there's no comparables. There's no, like, just because I haven't, lived as hard, what people would say as hard as this person or less than this, you know what I mean? Like, it's really, when you take any conversation, like, this is only Kevin's experience and whoever I'm talking to is theirs. It's really easy to just sit back, let them vent, be supportive, listen, and be understanding and compassionate. You know, if you start comparing, you start relating, you start breaking, you know, and just breaking up this person's, you know, whether it's awkward, it can be super awkward, right? Like, it's like, wow, you're admitting this to me. But at the same time, it's like, this person has been holding this in. Like, I've had this amount of stuff people have told me over the years when I started just being me and knowing that, like, number one, I'm a vault. Like, I'm not, this conversation's between me and the other person or the group. To have that trust, once you develop that trust, it's like, yeah, it opens up so much.
You know what I've noticed too is that it's like, you know, we played with guys, like from my case, I played with guys like 40 years ago. And I've considered them friends of mine more because I just played with them. And now for me, I've had this journey, you're on your journey, and now you realize, well, these people just don't fit into my world.
Yeah.
And it's, you don't have to be mad at them. You don't have to hate them by any means, but you just have to kind of just say, okay, you're not part of my world. If you want to change, that's fine. But so that's the tough thing too, because all of a sudden now everybody's like pointing the finger. I've got one old teammate who he's like attacking me because I've just moved on from his world. So that's the tough thing too. Is that,
yeah, for me, I established that early. Like, I very few of my teammates were ever had like dinners with at my house and everything else. It's just because it's okay to be coworkers.
Yeah.
You know, I'll support you in the room. We'll be friends. Like, but you know, when they start, you know, halfway through my career, they're in Nashville, they're starting to call me like hippie Kev, because I was never religious or anything, but more into the spiritual side, more in understanding self, like meditation and all sorts of different things. And that was kind of a joke, and they laugh about it because they didn't want to approach any of those things. Right? It's okay to make fun, and I'm fine. Like, I was laughing too, and I'd make fun of them and whatever. And that's how it's a locker room.
Yeah.
But what it is, it's like anything. It's like when you go to the golf course with buddies and you don't want to drink. Well, come on, Kleiner, have a drink. Have a drink. It's like, I don't want to drink. And you can drink if you want to drink in front of me. I don't give a shit. Like, do whatever you want. But you know, like when it's awkward for people to have to see someone who's trying to better themselves or make different choices.
Yeah.
And for them not to say, well, I can't do that. I don't have the strength, or I don't want to, right, or the discipline. And then it becomes a bone of contention, essentially.
Because you're forcing them to look in the mirror, and that's really difficult. Really difficult.
Exactly. When you should just be happy for me, then I'm trying to better myself because I want to.
So when I first got done playing, I became an agent, and I was still in the old hockey mode, like drinking 6, 8, 10 beers every night. Yeah. And the kids were calling me that I was representing, and I'd wake up in the morning, like, was I slurring my words? Could I remember what they said? So I quit for 5 years. I didn't drink. And it's the weirdest thing I look back on now. My biggest concern was, what is other people going to think of me because I'm not drinking? And now I'm going like, what was the thought process there? It's like ridiculous.
I know.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search. Match with Indeed. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/match. Just go to Indeed.com/match right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/match. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Delve into the shadows of the mind with Sleeping Dogs, a gripping murder mystery starring Academy Award winner Russell Crowe. Now available on digital. Crowe portrays an ex-homicide detective unraveling a brutal murder he can't recall. Uncovering secrets from his past, he learns a chilling truth. It's best to let sleeping dogs lie. Visit sleepingdogsmovie.com/Wondery to watch Sleeping Dogs, now on digital. That's sleepingdogsmovie.com/Wondery.
Yeah. Kevin touched on a couple things. You said we all have different stories, and you're right. I think I'm just going to make 2 quick points. We have 3 things in common. We're born, we live, and we die. and that's it. That's where it ends. Everything else is different. And the second thing, the most important thing I think, and I wish more guys did this, because now Tom is close with a family who lost a 16-year-old son, a hockey player. He just killed himself, and they had no signs. Yeah. And I think the most important thing you can do for a friend or anyone or people in your circle is just say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And just be there, and just, "Are you good?" And it's important to check in all the time with people. And I wish that the NHL would do that more with you guys, because like Tom said, we've had 100 shows or so, and there's been so many guys who struggle with similar issues that you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
You can throw money at it. You can say you're doing stuff, or send people an email with a help. But honestly, it's more a bit about finding something in your community. We don't need to be hockey players to talk about it. It needs to be community based of where you're at, right? And yes, phone calls and getting together is good from friends and family, but everyone should be in therapy. The amount of people I know that I interact with day to day that do therapy and are better for it is amazing. But I mean, that's just a fraction of all my buddies. When I go out and do stuff and I look around, I'm like, man, it's the writing's on the wall, right? I mean, we all see it. It's pretty obvious. And then, I've had three buddies go to rehab. None of them hockey players. 3 buddies I went to rehab in the last 2 years. A couple of drunk driving stuff. Of people in the community that I know, either acquaintances or a buddy. And it's seriously, guys, we're still doing this shit, Well,
it's true, right? So as we get older, all the time, we talk about going to the gym, running, yoga for your body to be better, right? To keep it cheap. So why shouldn't you do the same thing for your mind, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And your soul, man. You got to take care of your soul too,
So Ken, you touched on the spirituality. We're gonna go a little deep here. Well, we're already going deep. So what happens after we die? In your mind?
I really don't know. But for me, I'm not really worried about that. I don't have any fear. So I guess I'm weird, guys. I don't have any fear of death. I have no fear of death. And you can say you're younger and you don't. No, I just never have. I've almost died twice on a motorcycle, and and before I had kids, I had 2 motorcycles, and 2 people almost hit me, and one I was going really fast. So. And I gave up motorcycles before I had kids because I had 2 kids to provide for. So, I wanted to be safe. But I just energetically, when you start really focusing on energy and the spirit, I don't have a connection to organized religion. I just have a connection to self, to the earth, with nature. I just know how I feel when I go for walks and hikes in nature, when I meditate. People that are, kind of look at you and laugh when you talk about energy. I laugh at, because I'm like, well, do you ever walk into a room that is positive? And do you ever walk into a room that's negative? Yeah. I mean, any hockey player could talk about how you lose a game and all of a sudden you're looking around and it's like, whoa, this room is heavy. This is depressed. That's energy. That's a collective disappointment or sadness or anger. And you can feel that. And you start looking at that, simple way. I just try and navigate my life in the most positive way. Am I positive all the time? No, but I'm trying. My kids feel it. My kids, they have a very supportive, loving lifestyle, even with the separation. My one guy, my 50-year-old, lives with me full time, and I get my other guy half the time. And they talk to me about everything. And I can't say. My dad was amazing, loving, kind, provider, but I haven't, even to this day, he can't even really talk to me. When I start talking about this stuff, he's like, whoa, This is upbringing.
Yeah, that's generational.
That's generational. And if we can break that mold, my guys know that they can be sad. My guys know they can be angry, but they have to be compassionate. They have to talk about this stuff. They don't have to, but they can. And stuff that happens at school. My guy comes home, my 15-year-old, Dad, this happened. My teacher said this. I didn't really like it. And we approach it. And it's that's big, And
I think it's really cool that you grew up a certain way, but said, no, that's not good enough. Like you said, you loved your father to death.
Yeah, I still do.
Right? Yeah, and I'm going to treat my sons differently. For me, that was the same way. My parents were fantastic. Grew up on the farm in Canada. And again, it's a generational thing. And there was never, no hugging, never. I said, I love you. Even when my mother went to die, I started crying a little bit. She said, nope, there'll be none of that. Just shut it off. So I make sure that you're sure the same way. Every time I say goodbye to my boys, I say I love you.
Yeah. And they know it. They feel that. And they know they have someone, like my boys know that they have me in their corner no matter what, even when they fuck up.
Yeah.
Dad's here. And yeah, I always say the punishment will be twice as harsh if you lie to me about it and I find out later.
Yeah.
So they got that pretty early. So it's just like, it's changing this from a younger age. Like it's way harder to do the work and learn these tools in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. So, my big thing, and I've been talking to a friend of mine who played in the American League, Paul Crowder, who's local, and I started coaching his team, helping with the D lately. Which I when I retired, I was on the ice maybe in the 5 years since I retired, like maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
Like I just stopped. I was just like, and people are always asking me, I'm like, no. And I'd go out for the odd charity thing or kid thing. But I was just like, no. And I started getting back into it a couple of months ago and Paul and I were talking, and there's nothing up here. We're in the Collingwood area, and there's nothing up here for kids. There's maybe a AA team and stuff, and all the parents are talking about, hockey. And then it came to me, like Paul and I started talking, maybe opening up academy where you start and you develop, younger, where you have the ability for, nutrition and mental health support, where you can help introduce these things to kids early on. You start talking to 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and giving them the tools. It's going to help. It's going to benefit, tenfold in the future. Yeah. Because you'll start to get away and allow these kids to be their individual selves and not, with their hockey hair and backwards caps and listening to whatever that stupid Letter Kenny or whatever that, like it's just like the way we talk, like, yeah, bud, like snipe, silly shoot. I don't even know how it goes.
Chicklets and
yeah, it's just like,
well, they're playing a character that they think they should be, in their life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. Like guys are, it's entertaining, everything else. But if that's what our kids are learning, then we'll never break the cycle. We'll never break the cycle of the mental health trauma, the stuff your emotions down until you do drugs or booze or, like I like to go out and have drinks with my friends and have, a night of dancing. Like I love that stuff. I was always the first guy and last guy on the dance floor. Because
hold on. Let's touch on that. You're a good dancer?
I used to ask. Yeah, it was just me.
Have you seen Tom dance?
Here's the problem.
He needs help, man. He needs help.
Here's the problem with me, Kevin. Like, I actually really do enjoy dancing, but I am awful.
Well, you know what? It just takes a few lessons. Like, my girlfriend and I right now, we go out and we do some like Latin dances.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we took classes. We're off we've been off for a couple of months because everything's been busy. But we did about 2 8-week sessions.
Come on, you gotta do a video and send it to me then, okay?
Yeah. We do a little bit of salsa, merengue, a bunch of different stuff. And are we great? No, but it's out there moving, having fun, laughing. They're a bunch of different couples, like all different age groups. And it's like little things like that, like just being open to, it's not for everyone, right? Like, but it's like being open to what you want to do it and allowing yourself to do it. And this is the number one. And I over the years, like I could probably say the number one issue with hockey players, I'm just going to speak for hockey players because it's probably athletes too, but who knows? We're one-dimensional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And being one-dimensional is not good because when you're one-dimensional, you're having a bad week, a month, a year, you're going home, and what are you doing? You're watching hockey and thinking about how shitty you are.
Yeah.
Is that good? Or, even with your family, like I know lots of wives and girlfriends being like, yeah, he's I've seen guys turn a bad week into a bad month. They're reading the papers. They don't have an escape.
Yeah. That's true.
right? And then after you retire, same thing. All of a sudden, the only thing you've ever known, you either go into coaching, being an analyst, or
an agent.
Yeah, an agent.
you know what's funny? When I was playing, the Rangers had a program where they paid for you to go to school. And growing up on the farm, I always wanted to drive those big trucks. They come and pick up the milk. So I saw an advertisement back in the paper for the Superior Truck Driver School. I'll never forget. So I called the Rangers up and said, I'm going to go to school. And they think I'm going to Harvard Business School or something. I said, what are you doing? What are you going to do? I'm going to truck driving school. And it's like similar. Now, you did it on a more long-term basis. That was just a one-time thing for me.
Which is awesome. But like I'd go home, and I fell in love with blacksmithing at the time. I'd go home and I'd be making knives in the driveway in Rye, New York.
Were you really?
I was, and then I'd have like local kids come and I'd be like, okay, ask your parents, we'll do some. We'll get set up proper in there, making little butter knives, like custom butter knives with the hand.
So you really were a Viking, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I know.
And I got to tell people that are listening, that is so amazing to be an NHL hockey player and do something different like that. Like normally, like Ron Duguay's different thing was going to Studio 54 and all that kind of stuff. We'd go to the bar together. But to be a blacksmith or truck driving school, I'll never forget how hard time the guys gave. They still give me a hard time now.
I see. That goes to today, Tom, because even when Tom and I talk about this show, and yes, it's a hockey show, we're talking hockey players, but Tom's like, I'm so much more than a hockey player.
But it takes a long time to break that mold. Like it took me, I don't know, 10, 12 years back here. Like I'd come home every summer, and then eventually my boys were like, don't ask Kleiner about hockey. He doesn't want to talk hockey. He doesn't watch it. He doesn't know anything about it. Just leave him alone. And then now, like, no one talks hockey with me. It's like everything else, and it's real conversation, everything else. Not that talking hockey's, but it's just like, that's not who I am. You know, it's what I did and what I was good at. And it allowed me to, you know, be here right now in a relatively, you know, good space. But no,
Kev, you know, there's still a lot of guys out there like 40 years after the game. They still believe that that's their identity.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to guys all the time, you know, or whether it's at the rink or whatever, or it's like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, there's for me, it was learning how to balance, like finally saying like, good job, Kevin. Like, you know, be thankful and, you know, be proud of it, but at the same time, like, get away from it. Get away from everything that's attached to that stigma. You know, every hockey player that's played in the NHL knows. Like, when you go to a party, and if you're recognized or people know you, and then you see the ice switch, and then here it comes. And they're just waiting for an in. They're looking like, when's Kevin put down his drink, or when Kevin walks away from the group he's talking to slide in there and ask, who's your favorite teammate? Who's the best? They can't.
You know what I like to when they ask you, and they mean well. The fans are fantastic.
I'm very thankful for the fans. I was back in New York doing the alumni thing, and it was really nice to interact and have memories of when I was there. I mean, you run into guys with a memory where they either met me at a big game, you know, something really cool, and I'm thankful for that. I'm not putting that down, but it's really hard when you're just put in that box and you have to live and put on the happy smiley face and be Superman.
It is kind of funny because a lot of times they'll say, well, do you miss playing the game? And I think to myself, okay, do you want to tell the truth or do you want to lie here?
Hey, I always tell the truth now.
Same here. And now I tell you, I'm the same thing as you. I say just what you're saying now. Listen, it was fantastic. It's a dream come true. I'm proud of myself a little bit. But no, I love who I am now. Probably I love who I am now more than ever. Tom knows that. I love myself a lot.
No, absolutely.
the faces on people when they're like, oh, you have two boys, do they play? And then I'll go, no, not at all. They're like,
yeah, I know, yeah.
They're like, what? The music stops. They're like, really? They don't play at all? I'm like, no, they don't. Because they got to choose their own sports. They had an opportunity to play hockey. They didn't want to. Now they're into everything else. So it's like, but it's just funny to see like that's unheard of in Canada.
Yeah, I know. Well, especially because there's so many NHL players or former NHL players, their sons are now playing in the NHL too. So it's like, you know, that's what they should be doing. I'm sure, like you, I am so proud of my sons. It wouldn't matter if they played in the NHL. Their success level, the men they are now, I care less what they're doing.
But a lot of that isn't, spoken of, right? Yeah. Like it's like, you know, and then you go to the rink and I just see how some of these, you know, parents are, and I'm like,
I know. Well, Tom coaches his son, so
yeah, I can only imagine. I'm just starting to get back into it, and the amount of pressure on like a 8, 9, 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they're constantly analyzing what their kid is good at or what he needs to work on or he doesn't have this. I'm like, what the like? He's 9.
Isn't it funny when you look back, like now you're an adult, you've been through the NHL, you see that happen, and you're going, "Oh, what are these people?"
Yeah, that's the only thing that I worry about on developing. If I were to develop this like academy in the area and dealing with that, I don't know. I'd just be like,
there's good people though too that
I know there are. I know there are. And I had a good. And my parents pushed me when I was younger, and were like a crazy hockey dad or mom. I probably wouldn't be here talking to you.
Yeah.
I would have just said, "Screw this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do whatever."
Well, that's insane, Kevin, because you'll see now, as I coach, like Tom said, my son's 9. There's kids that he comes in contact with that are playing 7 days a week, and they're going to camp for the whole summer. It's like, what are you doing to these kids?
Yeah.
I just tell my son, like, work hard, skate, be, pass the puck, and back check.
So I've been on the ice with Tom's group, and they're a bunch of good guys. They've got it nailed down. They know what's important, what's not important. They always want to make the kids better. There's no question. But it better as people and as players. But the winning and losing. And to me, here's the thing too. Like I think the winning is important. Like the process that goes into winning. Like every player becoming better. I think that's great because
I also think losing is important.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact if we're going to take away, scoring, like what the score is and everything else, like you need to learn how to lose. I was a terrible loser for years because I wanted to win so bad that I was a poor loser, and I had to learn how to be a better teammate and a better person when going through tough times. Like, and if I didn't have that, I would have just, I would have been like.
You're learning adversity.
Exactly.
You need that.
we had Jim. Remember Jim Kite, the player, big tough guy. He was on. He had a great line. He says they call it snowplow parents, where they just want to clear everything out of the way for the kids so everything's perfect.
That is just and that's just setting your child up for disaster.
Absolutely.
Where's your hometown?
Kitchener-Waterloo.
Oh, that's right. Brampton's close by.
You up by Sunfish Lake up there?
What's that? No.
Yep. You know where that is?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's a great spot.
Yeah.
I just made that up.
No, I did not. It's funny. I stayed with friends of ours. They said, "Oh, come to our cottage."
Yeah.
Because everybody has a cottage on the lake.
Yeah, cottage.
It wasn't a cottage. It was a full-blown awesome house. It was a great time.
Remember the old cottages too? I remember they have the screen door, like the slant shut and everything. Oh man.
Yeah. My grandparents still have one in Aurelia, and it's a cottage. It's a cottage for sure.
Oh, I used to love that, the smell of it and everything. Oh,
yeah, but if someone asks you to go to a cottage in Muskoka, it's not a cottage. It's like a multi-million-dollar mansion on the water.
There you go.
Cool. And then where'd you play your junior hockey?
St. Mike's, Toronto's for the most part. And then I got traded my last year to Guelph Storm.
And then you were drafted by
Nashville.
Nashville, right?
Tom, he doesn't want to talk about hocky, man. He wants to talk about life.
Just real quick, and then we'll get back to other stuff. And was David Poyle there the whole time? Yeah,
Yep. That organization was pretty phenomenal. I'd say overall, like it's a very community. I mean, I got some funny stories. Like when I first got called up, I was at 19 or 20, maybe 20, and I get picked up by Barry Trotz at the airport. I'm like, what the
head coach?
What the head coach picks me up? He's like, yep. I just want to introduce myself and talk on the 20-minute ride in. I'm like, oh my, like this is different. I started talking to different guys. I'm like, I would never have. Like it's just different. Yeah. They were, it was very like because we were, kind of a bottom budget team at the time, like not anymore, but at the time, like it was 07 to 2013-ish, somewhere in there, where we started to progress. But it was very, pinching pennies and all that stuff. It was very community based and like a family. When I went back there, I mean, the amount of people that I saw, and this is 10, 11 years later, I mean, and that recognized me, talked, security guards and elevator people, like just amazing, right? To just reconnect. And it was very personal. Very personal.
We used to love going down there as an agent too. They called it the scouts and they called it the land of the boobs and boots.
Yeah.
So
it's a fun town.
Yeah. And then so what? 7 years you had there in
almost 7. I got traded in my 7th year. My seven full years. Yeah.
Right. And what did you think? You go from being a Kitchener guy Going to Nashville, now you come into New York. A little bit different.
That was honestly, I had, and no, like I just didn't like cities. So I didn't like cities, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like big city, big market. I'm like, I had everything planned. It was like, no matter what, that was going to be my last contract. I signed a 5-year contract, just bought a house. My kids were 1 and 4. And then I get traded like 4 or 5 months into my first year of that contract. So I even, I took the old Nashville pay cut at the time, no state tax, wanted to stay around, and I had 5 years. And at the end of those 5 years, I was going to be, I think, either 33, maybe, around 33, and then I was just going to retire.
Oh,
and then I got traded in New York, and it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah,
and then I got there, and I just tried to embrace it. I got traded, and then we went on the cup run right away. So that was fun, seeing the energy. But I was in Manhattan, put up in Tribeca area. And then I was like, my wife and kids stayed back in Nashville because they're just little, and I didn't know how long, with playoffs and everything. So they just bop in every few weeks. And then I was like, I can't live here.
Oh, really?
Which I love New York, and I love going back there. It's amazing. But I'm like, for me, being like in the country, like back home, everything, like I'm like, I need to get out of here. So we were like the first people to kind of move back into Rye area.
Oh, so most of the country staying in the city at that point.
Everyone was. I was the only guy. So I'm like, I'm moving out after this year. And then I think the year after, we had like 6-7 guys with families, like Girardi and Stahl and Stepan and JT Miller. All these guys started moving out there because they're like, yeah, why not? Yeah. Because I know before that, there were guys that used to live in Westchester area, right?
Yeah, that's the whole time I played here. We were in Westchester. We practiced at Rye Playland, so we just all lived around the area.
Yeah. So when I got there, there's not one guy. So I'm like, okay, I got to move out of here just for like peace of mind and to have like a house and not an apartment. And so that's what I did. And then Girardi and Stahl, I think, were the first couple, and maybe Steps.
Why'd you pick Rye?
The school system. The area, everything. We found a good house. And then my kids weren't, because they were unvaccinated at the time, were not allowed at the school.
Oh, really? Oh.
So then they wouldn't take a religious exemption. So I had to put my kids up at some swanky Connecticut school.
Oh, is that right?
No. Yeah, Whitby, which was cost me another $30,000 or whatever it was a year per kid. And I was like, what the?
Yeah, I know.
I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, that thing. Well, I'm in Greenwich, so right next to Rye. So I love it around here. But yeah, the cost around here. I grew up in a farm where we didn't have a flushing toilet. That's why I'm living in Greenwich.
But that's not a hockey thing. That's a New York thing. Like people, you get married, then you have kids. Kids a little older, like get out of the city. You got to get a house. Got to get a driveway, backyard. I think that people do that. It's natural progression.
Well, but again, though, to Kevin's point, like when you're playing and everybody else is doing something, and happens to be living in the city, it's hard to break away from that. Like it's, I know it sounds kind of weird to say like that because you're this brave hockey player and everything, but to do something different, like that's a life lesson, because as you get older, the art of not giving a fuck is a valuable thing to master, because when you don't care what other people think, it's free. And a good point, Tom. And what happens often, too, is other people respect you more because you're willing to step out and do what you want to do. It doesn't have to be just because it's different, but you're going to do what you want to do,
Yeah, you also have to think, like, the support system and, like, why hockey players usually, have get long-term girlfriends early on is because that's their only, their stability. And that's the thing why so many relationships fail, because you have one, my wife, who I was with for 20 years, more than half of my life was my junior girlfriend. Yeah. And she was the only stable aspect, no matter how much I moved around and everything else. So no matter what was right or wrong about the relationship, you just dealt with, because number one, you're away half the time. So it's easier to freaking, get away. And I had a relatively good relationship with my wife, which I was lucky. But you see lots of guys that just, they hold on, because it's the one anchor that they have, and that's why all the marriages fail.
I know,
3 years or something after
What do you think our divorce rate is?
Are staggering, really. I mean, we talked about it before when we got on the air, and it's like
80%, 80% at least.
Right. And then multiple guys have multiple divorces.
Just this show alone, it's probably 80%.
Yeah,
at least. Yeah.
Think about that, 80%.
Yeah,
like that.
Terrible.
That is horrible.
Isn't that true? Like if you give any advice to a current player, say don't get married while you're playing. It's just like
it just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, I can't blame the guys because they're going home to an empty apartment by themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, no family support. Like, and that's the difference between Europe. When I went over to play Europe, I played Europe in Switzerland for 2. It was only supposed to be 1 year. I stayed for 2 because I enjoyed it. I shouldn't have stayed for 2 because the same thing happened. The second year, I was starting to get miserable and seeing all the politics and whatever. But they have a support system like that. You know, if you're in Switzerland, you have your family within hours everywhere. They have and these guys are playing, whether it's, you know, whether they're starting young or they're older guys, they have the whole support system. It's a completely different environment. They have support. They've got life, you know, after. They've got, you know, like it's crazy how different it was. And it was kind of nice to see. And most of the time, Europeans, a lot of times when they come over a little bit later, they're more put together humans.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the guys I played from Sweden, they're great people, like really level-headed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can the NHL do differently? Can they hire mentor coaches, ex-players to just be with you? I mean, you don't want you around the team,
it's
but
just the stigma, man. It's the stigma. Yeah. It's like I can only imagine some of these guys that are taking. I've read the odd article about guys taking mental breaks. You know, like something that's gone on, and they don't really disclose what's gone on, like medical leave, whatever. I can only imagine those guys going back into that environment and how they're treated. I can guess, but you know, like these guys, you're going back into a team that like the guys are probably thinking like, oh, I'm still battling here. Like I have stresses and this and like, you know what I mean? Like it's, you have to, the thing is you can't change it until you start from pro. You will not change it. Like it doesn't matter. You have all the same coaches and everything gets overlooked. And, you know, the coaching staff apologized after that year in my exit meeting, how they handled it. But I'm like, okay, that's good. Like they knew because I was talking to some of the guys and someone told the coaching staff or whatever that I was retiring. Like I had a year left of my contract in New York. And I said, I need out of it. And they're like, oh, we can trade you. I'm like, no, I don't want to be traded. I want a full release. I'm done. They're like,
who was the GM at that time, Kev?
Jeff Gordon.
Did he handle it? Do you think he was pretty fair? He seemed like a guy that was somewhat more understanding.
He was good. He let me. He actually offered. I got a call from David Poyle saying, "Hey, Kev, we'd love to have you back. I've been informed that you're, you know, if you want to come back, we'll take you here." And I said, David, that means a lot. I'm gonna get emotional. I go, that means a lot to me, but right now, mentally, like I can't do this anymore. I don't like it. I don't like being away from my kids. And I don't like hockey, and I can't show up and be a good teammate.
Well, and to Kevin's point, for everybody's listening too, sitting in those locker rooms, and it was even worse back when I played. It's come somewhat better. It's just, when a guy pulls away, we're mutt heads, and I've said so many times. We're just not understanding it all. Like, you know, I'm here battling, banging my head against the wall, and then he leaves because he's not feeling well about it. So you're stupid. And now when you look back at it, you realize, okay, he had problems.
It's got to be so incredibly lonely at points too, though. You know,
but I was very vocal about it. I'm like, guys, I'm done after this year. Like to my buddies in the room, like when we'd spend hours in the training room, you know, every week, you know, just like doing whatever, hot packs, shooting the shit, having a coffee, and like Stahl, Gerard, like I had a, like, they knew and some guys have been, no, you're not retiring, you got a year left. I go, guys, like I'm out. Like you guys.
So were those guys pretty understanding? Like you could open up to them and tell them?
Oh yeah, they knew it, and they were, they were supportive, and you know, everyone goes through their own shit, and a lot of these guys, you know, not those guys in particular, but a lot of guys over the years don't like the game or don't like stuff about it or don't like the stress and the pressure, and they never really like talk about it. They started talking about it. Like I was like, especially in New York when I got there, and I was just me. So here's a funny story. Within, like, I get there, And my first game is at MSG, and the next two are at the Stadium Series, which is really cool. Was a really cool introduction to New York.
Yeah.
But we're like, I don't know, we weren't doing very well, I guess, before I got there. And I get there, and I'm like, guys, like, and I know Girardi from juniors. I played with him. I know Callie from juniors. I know, like, I'm like, what is going on here? It was like a morgue in the room before. It was silent. The music was turned off 20 minutes before warm-ups. Henrik would walk around with his earbuds in and not talk to anybody because he that's what he did. I'm like, this is fucked up. Like, I go, there's no way I could play hockey like this. Yeah. Like, so within 3 weeks, when I felt comfortable enough, I could have did the first, but I was not stepping on toes, and guys got to know me and who I was.
They hit me.
Yeah, they hit me. Next thing you know, I'm like, okay, I'm putting on the music. We're gonna keep the music on until warm up. I'm gonna do a dance before, so I started doing this little dance in my half gear for the boys to get them all fired up. I started challenging them in like 2-touch, where you actually have to move and try for the ball. Like, we were doing like 2-touch, which everyone keep up soccer before the game, and guys would just like let the ball drop and be like, oh, you're out. And there's like no energy. So I ended up saying like, hey, like, I just ended up kind of taking control and holding guys accountable. And next thing you know, you have like this ball of energy, and next thing you know, we're winning. And it wasn't because of me or my play or anything.
I know what you mean.
Guys, like, you guys are, I'm not taking, credit for this, but I'm like, guys, like, what, like, you have to enjoy this coming to the rink. It's hard enough if you're coming to the rink enjoying it, let alone if you're like sitting in the room depressed, right?
Oh, I hated that. Oh, I was the same kind of guy, Kevin. I hated that locker room being quiet.
And it's hard to do. It's hard to be counted on that every day.
Yeah.
It wore on me by year 3 or 4. But I did my best that I could at the time. But after that year, we lost in the finals at the end of the year dinner, right? Henrik comes over to me at our party and he goes, hey, Klein, I want to say something to you. He goes, you totally changed our team energy.
Nice.
I'm so thankful the energy you brought and everything else. And you know what I said? I'm going to go, Hank, it's because everyone's scared to disrupt your routine before, because you're in there with your earphones and they don't want to disrupt you. Right. And they're like, really? Because he doesn't think about that. He's just going through his process. Like, he's hyper-focused, and that's what he did, right? Superstition, you did all this thing. I go, yeah, like, they didn't want you. You were so well-respected, but you're in your own zone. Yeah. That everyone was just, like, sitting in their stalls, like, and then by year, the following year, which was my first full year, it was just expected. Guys were putting on their songs. We had DJ, like, dancing around, everything. And it just flowed into the hockey because guys were allowed to be themselves more, have fun. And it was a distraction from the bad times, and it would limit the bad times.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I agree. Those locker rooms are fantastic.
I know.
Like, to me, it's so much fun before game days. It's the weirdest thing, right? You're going out for a big game, 18,000 people, Madison Square Garden, big playoff game, whatever. And you think guys just got to focus in. Nah, man, you got
some need that. Some need that.
Very true.
For me, I just needed to because I didn't actually like hockey that much. I had to, for one, be like, get involved with my teammates for fun. Like, so, and for two, it just like, it created an energy where I didn't focus on like, oh, I'm not feeling the greatest, or my legs aren't going. If I could focus my energy into having fun, then it made it palatable.
Yeah. I hate it when coaches come in and say you got to be focused. You can't just turn it on and off. Sure, you turn it on and off. Have fun.
It all depends on the guys. Some guys, I know that would just, if they were. I think, Kev, too, like, we were both the same way. Like, we had to read and react, right? We're defenseman, so it's our mind had to be into it. So if we're all wired up and you can't think clearly, then you can't play the game. Yeah.
Tom's gonna give me a hard time because I told the story so many times. But I used to, my practical joker side, I would put baby powder in the hair dryers.
Yeah, that's a mess.
Right. So, but this one time I said, okay, I'm going to swear, I'm going to put it in before the game, so it's all set up, ready to go. So there's 5 hair dryers, put in 1 hair dryer. And our assistant coach was the eye in the sky, so he had this routine. He'd work out, shower, put his contact lenses in, then blow dry his hair. So it's like 2 minutes. We're standing up, ready to go on the ice. Everybody's getting up, patting each other, but all of a sudden they hear the hair dryer go on, and I think, oh, and he starts screaming. He's like, "I'm going to kill you." He happened to pick the one hair dryer. Guys were dying laughing. We're just about this big game. We must have been the Islanders or something like that. Big game. Yeah. We played. We were fantastic.
But that goes back to what Kevin said. That's shifting the energy.
Yeah.
So it's taking that tension, it's moving into yours as in Practical Jokers. Kevin's was like dancing, being goofy, having fun.
Yeah.
So it just changes the energy.
Yeah. I got to see a dance, Kevin. You have to see the video. Now, is your girlfriend, is she Hispanic? Is that where you're taking the insult?
Well, no. She's from like she was born in Ottawa. And she's local. So okay. I met her about a year ago now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we like the Hispanic women. Yeah.
I'm whatever. I don't have
Well, both my ex-wives were white women, so I think maybe that's I don't like white women anymore.
Yeah.
You've been fantastic to have on the show, really. I mean that very seriously. You're a great person, and not just nothing to do with hockey. It's the kind of person you're on. How old are your boys now?
Turning 12 and 15.
Very cool.
Nice.
So mine are 31 and 33, so that's kind of the time span. So it goes fast, but it goes fast.
It does, man. I mean, I turned 40 this year, so
yeah. God, I turned 66 about 2 weeks ago. It makes me. I was okay with 60, and I was okay with 65, but the 66 has got me pissed off. Like
I was laughing. I played golf the other day, and the guy's like, "I turned 51 this year," and I was like, "I'm having way more trouble than when I turned 50." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "What?"
I know. I'm agreeing with you. It's like it's just one more year, but it's like
logical.
Yeah, I'm getting closer.
Yeah, for me, I don't. Age is just a number. I mean, I'm a young energy.
Well, Tom will tell you, I'm very immature. There's no question about that.
No, I can be, but I love to have fun, and I'm playful, and I'm just like, I bring the energy. So
it's the way to live life. Like Tom said before, we're all going to die someday. You might as well live life all out while we're doing it.
There's so much to talk about here. I mean, if you ever want to have me,
definitely come back on for sure.
Absolutely, we'll have you. We'll talk a little bit of hockey, man.
Yeah, sure.
Well, hey, Kev, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really glad I got to meet you, and thank you for coming on the show
too.
Kevin, thank you.
Take care.
Pleasure, guys.
Wow, he's a unique dude, isn't he?
Oh man, that was a very different show, and a very important one too.
Yeah, really, very cool. That was good.
And he was open and honest off the bat. He was telling us, his struggles, and it reminded me. I kept hearing Corey Hirsch's story about how he was trying to hide it in the locker room, how he was just falling apart.
That I tell you, it's just a lot about the guys he was talking to. Because if he'd done that when I was playing, I'm not proud of this. I wouldn't have known what to do.
It's changing though. It's definitely changing, and it has to change. It's more important. I mean, you guys, we take for granted on the outside, like just the idea of someone getting traded. Like, okay, move your family across. Like you went to LA. It's like, get up, get out of here, move your family across country. New restaurants, new schools, new routines. And we're just like, hey, why is this guy playing like shit? It's like, well, he just got traded across the country and uprooted his family.
I know we talked about this so much too. I'll never forget that because so many times I've seen other guys get traded. They're like, oh, okay, he's traded. That's no big deal. Now I go through it and they're like, where's everybody?
Yeah. It's like watching Logan's Run. Everyone gets sucked up and you're like, oh, that sucks for them. And it's like, oh, wait, my number's up. I got to run. Yeah. But, it's important. We all forget the human side of it as fans. Yeah. We forget that, like, why is Panarin struggling? Well, because he was getting threatened in Russia. Why is this guy, maybe his Pierre LaRouche. Yeah. Remember, he said his wife was dealing with cancer while he was going through the Stanley Cup run. He said he couldn't enjoy it. He wasn't himself. He couldn't play well. He didn't tell anybody on the outside. Yeah. So we never see that part. You guys are human beings, fucked up human beings, but human beings.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like, the shows we've done, like how some guys really get deep and like really talk. Like there's guys we've had on who have had, like Darren Lang did. No big deal. Like it's just that's
that's a rarity.
Yep.
But a lot of guys have had issues where they struggle, and you're human beings. Whether you work at a gas station or in the NHL, you still have issues. And it's like I said, I'm not some kind of sage or anything, but there's three things that we have in common. That's it. It's birth, life, death. That's it. What do you do with that in between is what differs.
You and I have never talked about this. What do you think happens after you die?
I have no idea. I don't know. I really don't know. I was raised Catholic. I used to, and Christian, and I just don't know, man. I have no idea.
I know. But it is kind of weird, right? I know we talked about that George Carlin skit where he talked about God, and he says, okay, God, he's just he can see everything. Everybody has seen this. Fantastic. He can see everything 24 hours a day, 24/7. And you get these 10 rules that you have to follow.
Right.
And if you don't follow those 10 rules, you're going to go to this place that's burning. You're going to be there forever, for eternity, whatever. But he loves you.
Right. And on top of that, he's an absentee landlord.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's always got problems with money. Yeah. It's just, it's kind of funny, but it's like, okay, really? So he says he loves you, but then if you make a mistake, well, I guess.
Well, it's also, that could be men twisting up, who knows? I just don't know. I wish I did, but I don't. I really don't know. I know there's definitely some kind of spirituality to being human and they're being here. And I don't really necessarily believe the Big Bang Theory either. Like it's like we're here. It's almost like the Buddhists say, don't question anything. Just you hear these questions are too big. Just live your life.
Yeah. So, it's like this is just a small, like we're just kind of renting this body, right? And then going,
sure.
Like Radley Cote was really good. I've talked to him a few times since the show. I've got a female friend of mine too that worked at the gym. She's really into yoga, but I always looked at yoga as like, it's a stretching. Well, there's much more to yoga than that. And she's really into the whole thing that, we're just here for a short period of time, the whole big scheme of things.
Well, Kevin mentioned, and I'm all fair. I'll see if we can connect Kevin with Riley Cote. It might be a good match.
Yes.
But Kevin mentioned energy, energy, frequency, vibration. Those things are really important. And as I get older and learn more about that, it really is important. He made a great point. Like when you enter a room and it's bad energy, you're like, and there's certain people in your life who we're not going to mention their names, but they just bring negative energy and you don't want to deal with them. We have it too. And then when it's positive energy, like someone like yourself, you're a positive guy. You're good to be around. Granted, you leave after 30 seconds because you have a short attention span and you're a narcissist. However,
but I go hard for the 30 seconds.
It's a hard shift there, buddy.
I know, yeah. But it's not true, though, too. Like I felt like you've come into my life. Other people come into my life, and other people, the negative people, have drifted away. And I'm getting better, but I'm still having a hard time with that because I feel like, I guess because I've always been like that assistant captain that, everybody's coming to me all the time to fix things and everything. And so when I now say to myself, okay, Tom, you need to take care of yourself. You need to have boundaries. And people get mad about it. It's like I'm still kind of dealing with that whole process that, no, Tom, it's fine. You can take
care of yourself first. Yeah. And then make yourself right so you can help other people and put other. But also positivity breeds other positivity. It's really important. You just think of like the black cloud in your life. You don't want to be around that guy. You're like, oh, I know. This guy's here. He's going to bring the whole room down,
Oh, yeah. But people, there's still those people though that just don't get it. Like if you say to yourself, like, I'm not mad at anybody. I don't hate anybody. I just, if you don't fit into my lifestyle, then that's fine. You go do your thing.
Totally fine. Yeah. Just totally do your thing. But we don't have to spend hours where you're sucking the energy out of the room, Yeah.
And what the other thing too, I don't think you even have to explain it to anybody because once you start explaining it, then now there's a counter to your statement.
Sure. Right? And then you're like Kevin said, you're one-upping each other. It's like, that's not what it's about. Just bring positivity, be someone people want to be around, and just keep moving.
Are you pretty good at that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Have you always been good at that?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. I've always wanted to find a solution to think. I was probably a dick when I was a teenager like everybody else, but, I always wanted to find solutions. I'm more of an everybody rides kind of guy. Like, let's everybody, just let's all be involved here. So
yeah, it's amazing. I've gone on this little journey here, like recognizing people that should not be in my life and the people that should be in my life. It's just that recognition and acting accordingly. Like you don't have to pick up the phone and listen to them complain for an hour.
No, but again, I talk about this a lot. You do a thing I really like, and I need to do more. Is you're just reaching out to people randomly.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah. You know what? And that is really paid dividends, both on a professional level and a personal level. Like it's, I think when you do it with people, they're like, wow, that's really cool. This guy would reach out to me and they don't want anything. And very often I did that last week. I talked to a guy I haven't talked to in a long time. And all of a sudden he wanted to meet for lunch and there's a business opportunity. That really wasn't my intention to
but even if there's not, it's good. There's times when you meet people and it's not a business opportunity. Just with someone who you have an affinity for and you share good energy and you come away from that saying, hey, that was cool. Got a great conversation with so-and-so or we had lunch and you like that, it's really important.
Yeah, it is really cool. Like I thought, okay, I'm bored right now, I'm nothing to do, so I'll make some phone calls. But I'm realizing what it's, because it means something to those people too, right? Because I'm sure a lot of them are people, so they're always getting called for business deals, and all of a sudden it's just a personal, hey, how you doing?
I remember one time I checked in on a friend who had told me earlier he was struggling with some stuff, mental health issues, just depression. And one day, a few months later, I just texted him like, hey man, how are you? Good? And he wrote back, I'm great. And then a couple of days later, he's like, yeah, I can't tell you how much that meant to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just a simple question. Like and I said it to Kevin, like I said, Christine and I do this all the time. And I think it's the most important thing in a relationship. Maybe why you didn't do this enough in yours, but it's like, you just say, are you okay? Are you good? Yeah. And you really want to know. And sometimes Christine's like, no, I'm not good. And I'm like, okay, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You want help?
I think I told you this too. My second wife in particular, so much time between my divorce and my first marriage. Well, my second wife, a fantastic person, her mother had passed away. And I didn't know until about 2 weeks later. So I picked up the phone and called her. We had a great conversation. And I really opened up and talked to her more probably than I ever did when I were married. She was like, it was a great conversation. She was like, wow. She said, we never talk like this. And I just had no concept that I guess that was impossible. But
learning is learning, man.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great to just check in with people. And I go back to Hayden Thorson's dad, and it was such a tragic story that the kid, there were no signs, and the shoulder check is essentially the same thing as saying, "Are you okay?" You know, just ask people, "Are you good?"
Yeah, is that true? Just it doesn't cost you any money. It doesn't take you that much time just to say hello to somebody, say, "Hey, you doing?" Even a stranger on the street, if you think they're not feeling. Although I was in the Grand Central the other day, and there's this, when you come in, there's a ramp going up. People are familiar with Grand Central. And this older gentleman looked like I thought he was homeless, and he's pushing, like, he had a hard time walking. He's pushing his wheelchair or cart or whatever up the ramp. And I said, "Can I help you?" He started yelling at me. I guess it was it's like pride thing. Like, no, I don't need any help. I was like that yesterday. I careful the time. We were in Brooklyn, and they had the fire truck there. And they wanted me to get up on the top of the back of the truck there and hold the axe that they use.
Oh, wow.
So I was getting up in the truck. There was a really sweet young girl. I guess I was struggling a little bit to get from the back of the truck to help me. And I was laughing at her, but I said, "No, please. I'm the stubborn old man. Please don't help me. It makes me feel worse when you help me." Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, it's hard to accept help. I'm not trying to pump our tires like that. Say we're great people. But I remember one time Christine and I were at, it was like a supply, like Michael's, like an art supply store, and the girl behind the counter was getting a hard time from a customer, and then I just said, "I'm like, are you okay?" And she's like, "No, I'm really not." And then she started telling us, and fuck, I'm like, all we could tell her was like, it'll get better. And it's not, I'm not some super smart person,
that's you.
But just do that for people, especially people when you count them when they're working somewhere, because obviously they're just getting shit from people. Just be a good person.
See, that's fantastic. No, you should pat yourself back and your wife. That's fantastic, because you're right. The difference you can make in somebody's life, but just a small gesture like that, where everybody else is yelling at this poor person, and then you step up, and then this person realizes, wow, there are good people in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what we said. We said not everybody's an asshole. There's decent people. Just keep going. I love
those videos. There's a lot of good stuff. Like John Quinones, I think, does it, where he's like an ABC or so, where they have the hidden cameras. You ever seen those shows?
Yeah, but they're so set up and overproduced, though. It's so set up.
But the point is good, though. Like the same thing. The cashier, somebody's giving him a hard time, and the next guy behind steps up and goes,
in theory, but those particular ones are so overacted. I just have really? Yes, yeah, and such entrapment. Don't ruin my. Sorry, Tom. I know where you're going, and I do, and it's a great idea. Yes, be good to people and do the right thing. Absolutely, and it makes a huge difference. But that ABC stuff is, and as someone who comes from the TV world, very, very overproduced. Not to burst any bubbles. Keep being the mayor of Costco. Be good to people. Say hello to Norris. Go in there. Put a smile on people's faces. That's it. They probably love when you come in.
Yeah, they do. They get all excited. They see me, the little Spanish women, and everything. Hi, sweetie. Puppy. Hi, puppy.
And not one of those people like, oh, there's the guy who used to play for the Rangers. They're like, there's our buddy Tom.
You know what? I love that. You're right, because none of them know that I used to play for the Rangers. There's one guy out there pushing carts, Pal Valley. He's a Czech guy. He knew. I think he thought I was Mark Messier at first, because he was being way too nice to me. And then I said, my name's Tom, right? Okay. So
he goes, oh, you scored 25 goals? Okay.
Yeah, I know. But it's so funny. It's funny going to a Ranger event too. Like, when I go, because you can always tell people are looking at me. Is that Adam Graves? Is that Brian Mullen? Is that Mark Messier?
You should mess with Graves one day and see. Well, he won't do it, but maybe Mullen will. Like, you guys should just switch jerseys one day.
We and I've done that. We've done like volunteer, like alumni hockey games. Yeah. Now it's Brian Mullen, and I'll skate out.
People just say, oh, there he is.
It's so funny though, because I can judge it based on how excited they are. Like, if they're really excited, they're way too excited. They think I'm Adam Graves and Mark Messier. If they're moderately excited, it's Brian Mullen, and sometimes people recognize it. But it's because it's not. We laugh about it so much now, but it's funny because you have to tell them, and you're trying not to embarrass them, right? Like, I'll never forget, we were skating at the Garden, one of those free skates, and the guy was way too excited. And he's like 10 pictures he had taken. Finally, he grabs his girlfriend. He says, "Honey, can you get your picture taken with Mark and I?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. So now you got to say to him, like, listen, I'm not Mark Messier.
Just sign it, Messier. He won't know the difference.
Oh, God.
Well, I remember the event, one of the events early on when we were doing the show, you were doing it for Steedle, and one kid, you signed an autograph, he goes, "Are you Wayne Gretzky?" I bet he was probably 11 years old and didn't,
The one we were at school one time, too, a really sweet young girl goes, "You look like The Rock's son."
Yeah, well, you said that.
Father
said that a lot. Yeah.
I said, I'll take The Rock. But
yeah, just look. The fact that they just want to have you there, you should be like, yeah, thanks, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
But what a great show with Kevin Klein, and he was part of that run, but he was more talking about his life, which is more important anyway. That's what it's all about. Yes, we're a hockey show, we have hockey fans listening, but we're also a full change show. We're a mental health show. We said that from the beginning too.
He was excellent, man. His honesty about opening up and being vulnerable and everything, and talking about how, like, he loved playing the game, but it's not part of his life anymore. It's the game's over with. So he was, man, what a strong man. Oh,
yeah, that was great. That was awesome. So glad he came on, and we'll definitely have him on again because he's got a lot of cool stories. That you can tell. But we want to keep it to about an hour. So
yeah, we could have gone on forever with him, like talking about all this stuff too. Yeah, I mean, like I said, 2 minutes of hockey, and that's what it is. So great. Like a really good man. Like we don't know each other. He'd actually come in town for a Ranger event in Jackie D. Piazza that sets up all our alumni stuff. Talked to me after the day he was here. He goes, "Wow, is he cool?"
Yeah, and he doesn't know you, doesn't know me, doesn't know our audience, and yet he was wide open with everybody. So that was awesome. I really appreciate that. That was great, and we'll have him on again for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He was really cool. Talking a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a review on Apple, tell your friends, share it around, and email fullchangepodcast@gmail.com. And we can have Tom take dance lessons at your dance.
Yes, absolutely. Singing, dancing. What else do we do?
You got some competition now, though. Apparently, you got.
I know. Yeah, Kevin Klein. He's going to send us a video. I'll post that.
There we go. We'll put that on the socials. Yeah, and he does not do social media too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Great show.
All right, Grasshoppers. Thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.